Welcome back, everyone, to We Have Spoken, and today we talk about... Hi?
Grogu, you're coming with me.
Like hell he is!
Oh, crap.
Right in the kisser!
Not the face! Back from the dead, assholes!
It's okay, we had extra lives. Luckily. Anyway, as I was trying to say before, welcome back to We Have Spoken. And it's the finale, people. We've all been waiting on this one. We were kind of worried about how it was going to go down, given how, the previous episode was, but for what happened, I think we got a pretty good finale. What do you guys think?
I think so too.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. Like, Mando getting his crew together, and them storming the base, and his face down with Gideon, and you-know-who showing up. Mm-hmm. Ooh, boy. So, I guess we'll start at the beginning, right?
Okay, so it cuts right to the chase. Literally, we start off with a chase, with an Imperial shuttle coming in, and the Slave One on hot pursuit, and the shuttle's trying to avoid. Boba Fett shoots an ion blast on the shuttle, disabling it, and they board the ship, and they take over the two pilots that are on there.
That already had me raising questions. I'm like, how did they track that guy down? I thought they were looking for the, Gideon's ship. How did they manage to track that guy?
Well, that guy didn't have a death wish, so...
Yes.
Yeah, but even so, that kind of came out of nowhere, because it's like, they went through that whole thing to find out where the ship was, so why the hell are they kidnapping that other guy first? It didn't really make sense to me.
Well, I think they needed Dr. Hershing because they needed an in. They needed a way in. They needed to, like in Return of the Jedi, there's lots of Return of the Jedi symbolism in this episode, very much so. And they try to hijack the shuttle as a way to kind of sneak aboard the ship.
There's also the fact that Mando wants to check with the doctor to make sure that Grogu is still indeed alive.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you think that would, given what a villain that Gideon is, how much he loves to gloat and stuff, he would have made it well known if the child was dead. I'm just saying.
Well, you'd think that, Mando wants to at least make sure that he's not going in there for nothing.
Yeah.
True. And then we had that whole standoff scene with the one pilot guy, and I will admit, that scene alone made me worried for this special, because I'm like, okay, this guy is like, oh, let's not make ourselves targets. But then he proceeds to antagonize Cara Dune. He's like, oh, you're from Alderaan. Oh, yeah, I enjoy destroying your people. I'm like, where the fuck did this come from?
Also, how did he manage to get off of the first Death Star?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I worked on the original Death Star. I watched his old blow up. I'm like, how did you survive? If memory serves me right, Darth Vader's the only one who survived that, unless,
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, there was that scene in A New Hope where the guy talks to Moff Tarkin, and he's saying, we analyzed their attack pattern, there might be a threat, should I have your shuttle standing by? So there was some...
The guy stole a shuttle. He's like, I wait in peace.
Probably.
No.
That would be a fun story, though. A fun little side story.
No. He hid in a refrigerator.
Yes.
A lead-based refrigerator.
Well, or a blaster deflecting.
Look, I know this is Lucasfilm, but...
It's made of Beskar, that's what it was.
Yes, exactly. That survives anything, apparently. But yeah, that whole scene alone had me worried, because that just turned on a dime for no real reason. It's like, okay, they're about to capture this guy, why are the pilots going out of their way for this? They know if they try to stand up, the guys are going to kill him. They know if they fail, the villains are going to kill them. So That guy he's like, let me be over the top evil so it's easy to kill me.
Like, he didn't think there'd be somebody who could get a perfect headshot in him. It's like, he wasn't exactly, like, right up close to the Doctor. There was significant space where you could shoot him and not have it affect the Doctor.
Or maybe they're pointlessly trying to create a possible setup for her character when Rangers of the New Republic gets its own series. I don't know.
Also, how the hell did he know she was from Alderaan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just, like, automatically knew. I'm like, do people from Alderaan have, like, a tell? Do they look distinct? I mean, as far as I know, everyone from Alderaan is human, so...
Well, that one New Republic guy also, asked her if Alderaan.
Well, yeah, he was looking up her file, though, so at least I understood.
Yeah, that part
But this guy, like, automatically knew, and I'm like, did you meet her before, Like...
Maybe you took a guess.
I guess. I don't know, that whole scene just felt extremely forced. And of course, Mando's just standing there letting it happen. In fact, like, for the next 2 encounters, he just stands there letting his teammates basically either antagonize people or be antagonized to the point where a fight breaks out. I'm like, Mando, dude, come on, you're on a mission. Let's get some civility here. Because, like, when they meet up with Bo-Katan and her compatriot, it's like, automatically, she starts ragging on Boba, and Boba rags on her, and suddenly it's like, bar fight.
Shade!
I gotta say, this episode, like, really made Bo-Katan out to be a hypocrite. Because, like, she gave Mando shit in the previous episode when he's like, oh, you don't wear your helmet all the time, you're not Mandalorian. There I understood, because she is from Mandalore, as we all well know. She knows how things are, so that I understood that shit. But then she turns to Boba and is like, yeah, you're not a Mandalorian. I'm like, okay.
I mean, he's just a clone.
I know he's just a clone. Like,
yeah.
that was obvious when he spoke, but like, he didn't even speak to her, and she just looked at him and was like, you're not Mandalorian. I'm like, how the fuck can you tell?
Yeah, because he painted his helmet differently.
But they also said the same thing of Jango, that he wasn't a Mandalorian, so...
Right. So
I think there's something more there about, that they know who Jango is.
I guess so, but...
Yeah.
But it's like I was saying in the episode when Boba appeared, with his whole continuity turning on a dime. First they were saying that, oh yeah, he was Mandalorian, but then they're like, oh no, he's still Mandalorian armor. Then they turn around and say, oh no, his father was a foundling, so he technically is a Mandalorian. And then he turns around and is like, oh no, I never said I was Mandalorian. It's like, make up your mind! Jesus Christ! Like, it's not just, different series saying that, because I know the movie said one thing, Clone Wars said another thing, Rebels said another thing, this series said another thing, but in the same series, 2 episodes apart, they're like, oh yeah, Boba actually is a Mandalorian. Oh wait, no he's not.
Technically, I don't think they've ever even said Mandalorian in the movies. It's just implied.
No. Yes.
Right, but I mean, given Lucas's official stance on it, he said he was a Mandalorian. That's what everybody pretty much assumed, and nobody corrected him in the however freaking many decades between, that established fact. Like, between that and I want to say the prequels, when you finally see his father and then, you put 2 and 2 together. But it just, I don't know, that frustrated me. Because it's like, Boba, like, make up your mind, please.
Well, then again, it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things now, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Like, I know he's ultimately a clone, and everything he has, he inherited from his father, but it's like, pick an identity, please. Stop making the fans go apeshit over your whole backstory and the lore of your character. He's the reason why we have the Mandalorian to begin with, and yet they can't even get his character straight. It frustrates me. That rant aside. I don't know, would you have any input on that?
Again, I don't even think George Lucas really knows what he's doing, because he's the one that also signed off on the Clone Wars. He's further, aggravating the problem.
He's more like he created the sandbox and he just lets other people play in it.
Yeah, but then he decides whatever's popular and then picks and chooses what actually is canon and what isn't.
Well, it doesn't matter anymore because Disney's in charge of that. So now it's all about...
But
I mean, he has input in definitely, on the stuff before the Disney acquisition. So it's like, yeah, there's still that contradiction that, you could have said something about. I mean, honestly, there's even more contradictions besides Mandalorians on that, but that's a whole nother, discussion.
Right. Point is, they eventually resolve their differences enough where they agree to help Mando get Grogu back. Like, I just love that's like everyone's like trigger word. It's like, oh, you want us to help you? No, I don't think we're gonna do that. Oh, they got the kid. Sign me up.
It's like, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
And yeah, we gotta point out the elephant in the room. What happened to that third guy?
Wait, did he die in...
I don't think he did.
Did he die in the...
Because everybody was asking where he was. Like, I saw memes asking where he was.
Yeah, like, you see, like, Bo-Katan's like, I feel like we're forgetting something. And her comrade's like, well, if you feel like you're forgetting it, it must not have been important. And then you see the guy off by himself looking all sad.
Well, I have a feeling like now because he's missing, like there's probably going to be some comic or some throwaway line, maybe in season 3, explaining where this guy went.
He was Admiral Blue Jeans all along.
I swear, when
he was carefully taken off around the back shed by Disney and had a bullet put in him in order to put that whole thing to rest. So that's what happened to him.
Someone's going to cosplay as Admiral Blue Jeans at some point.
Oh, of course. When cons start becoming a thing again, that's like one of the first cosplays I'm going to look for. I hate to say this, but I have a theory as to why he was cut out. And I can't say I approve too much, because skipping ahead a bit, when they finally get to the infiltration part where they go on Gideon's ship, the entire group is all women. It's Cara Dune, Bo-Katan, the sharpshooter, and Bo-Katan's compatriots. All 4 women. And I assume this was like a power move, because how very often do you see, an infiltration group that is strictly women?
Yes.
Like, that's a good thing. I appreciate that. But I can't help but wonder if, in order to get that message and that feel across, that they cut out the third guy just to make it look like they weren't relying on, like, a man or something.
Like they needed a third guy, needed a dude to...
Yeah.
That or they had a quota of, people they could pay, and it's like
they already had 2 token guys, they didn't need, like, a third.
Once again, somewhere in Lucasfilm is going to try to come up with a storyline explaining where he was in this whole...
I mean, he could have went forward to, like, Mandalore or something.
Maybe he was scouted ahead to Mandalore because, we're going to take over, we know we're going to take over the ship, so you scout on ahead to see what's going on.
I mean, they were looking for the Darksaber and where Gideon's ship was. They had no idea up until Mando told them, so maybe he just went ahead. I mean, it's not important in the grand scheme of things. I just always found that amusing, though, because, like, the whole time I'm thinking, wait, wasn't there 3 of them? Like, where did the other guy go? Not that I remember anything about him, but...
He was there. That's all.
He was just there.
He was just there. They just didn't care.
But yeah, moving on. So yeah, Mando's got his crew together.
It's called gang.
Yeah, it's called a gang. He's not had a gang before.
Well, he has.
Yeah, he has. However, unwillingly.
Yeah. But this is a gang of his choosing.
Yes.
He chose this gang.
Mm-hmm. Although I feel like there's other people he could have included, but whatever. Like, he got the people he needed, so yeah, they launched this whole, like, fake out thing where they go onto the ship that they captured from the Doctor, and Boba's chasing them, and it looks like they're chasing an Imperial ship, and so it gives them liberty to get close enough to the ship, and they end up crashing into it, which... I feel like, yeah, that could have gone better.
But at the same time, they
more ineptitude of the Empire.
Yeah, and also it worked in trying to make it believable. I will give it that. I mean, the TIE fighters just became more of an extra touch. But it's like no, we don't need TIE fighters. But then again, I'm like, this is Boba Fett we're talking about here, and it's TIE fighters. Like, anybody can pick off TIE fighters.
True.
But I'm like, that still makes me wonder how the hell the Empire managed to survive as long as it did, even past the destruction of both Death Stars, and they're still around. How do they survive with such ineptitude?
Hired bounty hunters like Boba Fett.
I mean, to their credit, at least they didn't tell the plane to come into their base right away. They at least told it to fly off, and then they take care of Boba. But then like Mando's like panicking. He's like, "Oh shit, we got to get in there now!" And they just crash their way through, blowing their cover pretty much.
Not entirely. Like, it's only when the doors goes down.
I'm assuming the way their plan was supposed to go was that the Empire sees them getting attacked. They're like, oh, come in for safety while we send the TIE fighters after Slave 1 and pick it off. But instead, they're just like, oh, no, you don't have to come in. You just go off to the side there, and we'll pick it off for you.
I'm also wondering if Gideon's Force sensitive, because he seems to, like, really pick up on a lot of things.
Yeah, he has, like, almost Moriarty level of precognition or something. It's like, I know exactly how this is going to play out.
Not even that, like, he can pretty much tell that, the people on that craft, they're not Empire.
Well, maybe he was trained by Grand Admiral Thrawn in those kind of tactics. So
I mean, there's that, but
very Thrawnish.
There's that, but also like just you see like how he reacts, like how he's picking up on things that he's not even seeing, and he's reacting to it, like how
I mean, to be fair, Mando already tipped him off that he was planning to take on his ship.
Yes.
Because, like, he knew where he was located, so obviously he was bracing himself. He was just waiting for that moment. And, of course, as soon as something out of the ordinary happened, he's like, it's them.
He's just like, so this is how it's going down.
But also, I noticed when our special guest star drops by at the end, he immediately picks up on it without even seeing it, and then he attempts to, suicide.
Well, that's because Luke's reputation is, without saying, like, the Empire fears Luke Skywalker at this point. This is a man who helped destroy not one, but 2 Death Stars. So at that point, the fragments of the Empire are like, oh shit.
But he didn't even see the guy's face. He didn't see.
He saw the lightsaber. He saw the cloak. He saw the lightsaber. That's all he needed to see.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, how many freaking Jedis were running around that are that well known?
Yes.
I'm just saying, I really think Gideon is Force sensitive.
I would buy that, honestly. Yeah. I mean, the fact that he wielded the saber, means that he must have some sort of superhuman ability, both to get it away from a Mandalorian and to wield it on his own in the proper manner. Because when he was taking on Mando, he did a pretty decent job using it. And I get it, you don't have to be force sensitive to wield a lightsaber. It's essentially wielding a sword. But at the same time, you gotta know how to do it properly enough where you don't freaking hack your own limbs off. Yeah, I think to a degree he must be. But I gotta say, he was gold in this.
Yes.
He was so much fun to watch. Just how, he just loved being evil so much. It was almost like watching the Emperor was almost a turn on for him when he's doing his evil deeds. He's like, I feel your anger. It gives you focus. Dear God, the way when Mando beat him and then drags his ass into the main room and he sees Bo-Katan, he just sees the look on her face. Is like, ha 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 ha! You're not getting the saber from me now, bitch.
It's like, I get to live. I get to live, and I get to watch the drama.
Oh my God, he was the best part of that whole scene.
I want to backtrack a bit. I want to talk about the Dark Troopers. Like, there's a moment where Mando, as he's infiltrating, he runs into one of the Dark Troopers. They start coming out, and he closes the door. And as the door closes, one of them pulls it apart with hands very Terminator.
The whole thing was a fucking Terminator thing.
I know, and it was so awesome. And there was a scene where it was one of those moments where where the trooper just punches him
in the face,
right in the helmet.
I could feel that.
And I know, and there was dents on the wall, through the helmet was still somewhat intact, but
I'm surprised his brains weren't splattered all over the side of his helmet. When he removed his helmet later on, I expected his head to be all bloodied and shit the first time you saw him.
That's concussion level, right there. It's oh Jesus, ah.
You watch, once it's all over, he walks onto the ship and he's like, oh yeah, there's the head trauma. But yeah, the Dark Troopers are I was hoping they'd show how badass they were, because I was disappointed when the first time you see them, it's just a retrieval. You don't even see them fight. But in this case, yeah, you see them fight, and they are a force to be reckoned with, mainly because they're droids, apparently.
Yeah, they are droids.
You gotta love it. Mando finally gets over his hatred of droids, and now he has to face down a droid in order to complete his mission.
It's come full circle. It's like they rhyme. It's
poetry. It's poetry. They rhyme.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like, oh, so we went from fighting the droid army in the old Republic days to now in this, and going right back to that is the Empire.
Yeah, like we went from droids to clones to troopers, then back to droids.
I was hoping cyborgs. I mean, let's blend the two.
Well, you've already got a cyborg in Vader.
Although there was a cyborg in the old continuity, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, at least these droids are actually, tough to beat, which they should have been from the beginning, instead of just another body just to put between you and your opponent that they could easily slice through like butter. But yeah, I'm glad to see that it took him having to shove the thing in the airlock in order to actually beat it. Well,
yes.
Beat it.
Yeah. For now.
Mm-hmm. Like he did with the whole room, like alien style almost.
Yes. I know, definitely some homages here and there to all these.
I'm glad they came back though, because when that happened, I'm like, wow, that's a cop-out. Mm-hmm. You have a whole room full of these deadly troopers.
And they're active.
Yeah. And they took a long time to power up, like Jesus. But yeah, when they finally are about to go in the action, he just hits the button and like, poof, they're out in space. I'm like, okay, there goes that threat. But no, they come back with a vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, well, good thing somebody remembered to put rockets on those things. And then, of course, there's when Mando finally does get to Grogu. Of course, Gideon's there waiting for him. And he's like, oh, you want this? You
because
want
they're
this?
like, no, because remember, they first go with the rest of the gang to the, what is it, the cockpit?
Yeah,
Or the bridge. Yeah, because they're looking for Gideon, and he's not there, so they're like, well, if he's not here, where is he? So, we all know where he is.
Yeah, come on.
We all know.
As soon as I saw the look on his face when he knew that they were in that ship, I'm like, yeah, he's going straight to Grogu. He's gonna have like the friggin' saber up to his neck. I was close, but he had the friggin' saber up close. And then, of course, he's like taunting him. He's like, oh, you want this? You want this? Oh, go right ahead. I have what I want. You could have him. Psych, bitch!
And they start battling, and I called it that Mando was going to use the spear, and there was going to be a spear with the dark saber, and they were clashing against each other, and it was awesome.
Can I say how the writers, even though they put all of these like clever twists and everything, and usually have good writing for the most part, they had to make it known. They had to have Bo-Katan say, oh yeah, nothing can defeat a Darksaber. It cuts through anything except pure Beskar. And I'm like, thank you for pointing that out to what we already know. Because it's like, gee, I wonder why that spear was the only thing to survive the crash. I wonder why he's carrying that on him now. Oh, you mean it's the only weapon to stand up to a Darksaber? Good to know. I wonder how that will play into the finale. But yeah, like I said, it's obvious. Foreshadowing is obvious. But even so, I mean, at least it shows why he was able to defeat him. I mean, I don't remember about the Darksaber that much, because I know a lightsaber can mostly cut through anything, but
yeah,
I didn't think the Darksaber was even more powerful than a regular lightsaber to that degree.
I don't think so. I thought it was always just like a custom job, and
that's what I always thought.
Yeah. It's just that sort of, what is it, like reigning monarchy, power behind it, that... that faith that they put behind it, that's the power.
I know it has its own lore and everything in regards to Mandalorian.
But in terms of being, I don't think it's a more powerful lightsaber. It's just a lightsaber that's
black.
That's black, yeah.
Yeah, because I think back to when the clips I saw where it was used by other people and stuff, and it was used up against lightsabers, but it didn't come across as being any more or less powerful.
No, it's kind of like how, and a lot of people have been comparing it to the Elder Wand in Harry Potter.
Oh my god.
So I think it really comes down to the user and, having that attachment to it. And, that you have to defeat the user in order to really take control of it.
Can we talk about that, please? Oh my god.
What? Why didn't Owl House get to that? They already ruined Quidditch!
I should have seen that coming, honestly, and it's as soon as he drags Gideon into the room with the thing, I'm like, and she has that look on her face, I'm like, oh no, this is one of those things. She's not going to accept the saber because she didn't win in a battle. And he's like, here, take it. No, she can. You have to win in battle from her. Like, God! Motherfucker!
No, you have to say it with the enjoyment on your face.
It's like, she can't accept it because she has to win it in battle.
And now you need your popcorn watching the drama unfold.
how they've made Bo-Katan basically a hypocrite in this episode. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you watched Rebels. She accepted the dark saber before without winning it in battle, right?
Yeah, I think Sabine just handed it to her.
Yeah, because...
So why is this any different?
Because, like, I know Sabine, like, she was still young. She obviously didn't, had her other mission, so she gave it to Bo-Katan because technically she is the rightful ruler of Mandalore by, her legacy. But, yeah, in this case, Mando wins it from Gideon. He willingly gives it back to her, and she's just like, oh, no, I can't. I gotta win in battle. I'm like, why? Why? That wasn't a requirement the first time you had the blade. And now, it's like, Mandalore isn't even, like, a fully functioning planet at this point, right? So why is she keeping that particular thing alive? Was that even a thing before this?
Hell if I know.
Like, this feels like the whole thing with Mando not being able to remove his helmet. Because it's like, that was never a thing before, right? That did not come up at any point.
No, but like I said, I think what we ultimately agree on is that it's like there's different sects of Mandalorian.
Right.
There were a whole lot of civil wars with Mandalore. Like,
but I'm saying, it was like a season before we found out the specifics of that.
Yes.
So, finally they explained that after, a year of speculation. So it's like, okay, it's a different sect. I can accept that. I can't accept how Bo-Katan, who followed her own different set of rules before, is now following the traditional rules now.
I mean, this is probably a very loose thing, but I'm guessing maybe if it goes outside of their, their tribe or their sect of it, then they have to battle for it. If it's within their own, then they can just give it to each other. I'm grasping at straws here.
I mean, I can understand having to fight...
They'll probably explain it in season 3 when we get there.
I mean, I guess I can understand with Gideon, because, he's not a Mandalorian, and he's a stranger who, stole that from her. I can understand that, but he's one of her own. I mean, technically, I know he's a foundling, but he's still one of their own. It just...
It raises too many questions.
I think they'll probably explain it more in season 3.
And the thing is, I expected more in, Boba's, sect. Because, remember, when he was on Tatooine and when he was fighting that monster, and when he told the welder about it later, she was going to make him, the animal's head, and he's like, oh no, I didn't defeat it in battle myself, I had help. It's like, okay, I can understand that for his culture, because it's like, you can't claim the mantle of an animal unless you defeat it yourself with your own bare hands. But... for her? Wasn't she a bad guy at one point? Didn't she actually betray Mandalore? Wasn't she, killing people? And now suddenly she's honorable? I just...
Seems like she...
I'm confused.
Seems like her ideals and everything just changed at the drop of a hat. I'm like...
I hate to say it, but this just feels like forced conflict. Because it's like, okay... we need a reason to give Mando the saber and to have him keep it. Because we know he's obviously not going to keep it of his own free will. Plus, we need conflict for season 3, so this is going to happen. Because, he's not going to willingly take on the mantle as ruler of Mandalore.
No.
That just doesn't seem his style. And now he's going to be forced into this battle he does not want to do. And I gotta wonder, when they say defeat, do they mean kill?
I don't think so, because he didn't kill Gideon.
Exactly.
Yeah, so what, is he supposed to, fake it? Is he supposed to legit try to hurt her? Is she supposed to legit try to hurt him? What are the freaking rules of this? Again, it just feels like another reason to just dump shit on Mando and be like, yeah, we want you to be king, but, you're gonna have to, really work to get out of doing this. It's like, you poor bastard. I made a meme myself about this, in that this is basically how Conker's Bad Fur Day ended. In that, by the end, he's made king, but he never wanted to be king. He just wanted to save his girlfriend, but he lost his girlfriend. So it's like he's sitting on the throne just all angry and shit. It's like he won, but did he really?
And not only that, he had to accept a bunch of side quests and things, and he was freaking hungover.
So Conker's Bad Fur Day was the original Mandalorian.
It really was. It really was.
You watch now, Mando takes off his helmet and it's just Conker under there, and he's like, why do you keep pulling in this shit?
Literally, he gets pulled into this shit.
great mighty
Pooh.
Well, Mando does tussle in the mud with this giant creature, so... Yeah, let's get past this infuriating part to something that is so heartbreaking, so utterly heartbreaking.
Before we get to that, we need to get into the...
address
the X-Wing in the room.
Yeah, so as we expected, Grogu reached out and touched somebody.
Phrasing. Yes! Motherfucking Luke Skywalker comes barging the fuck in and takes out the entire fucking Dark Trooper army.
Like they were battle droids.
By himself to come rescue them at the last minute.
Deus Ex Skywalker. It's a massive Deus Ex Machina, and that's the one. I don't know how I feel about that.
I have very conflicting feelings about this, because we all said last episode how we didn't think it would be Luke because, he had his own thing going on, it wouldn't make sense to the story, and so on and so forth, but lo and behold, it happened, and not only that, they got Mark Hamill back to, voice and to do his face and everything. I gotta say, it was better than the movies. The
technology has gotten better since Rogue One, because Rogue One was it wasn't quite there yet. It did get better in Rise of Skywalker when they did that. It's getting there. I mean, it's not quite 100% there.
It wasn't that bad. I wasn't cringing at it.
No.
I thought it was pretty fun. At first, I actually thought it was Sebastian Stan, like people were theorizing it would be, just, a little modified. But, yeah, it was apparently just a body double with Mark Hamill's face thrown over it. It's like, okay, whatever.
Although I didn't realize that actually was Mark Hamill's voice, that they digitally altered it. I thought it was somebody else doing the dubbing, because I've heard Mark Hamill these days, and his voice is much raspier.
Well, obviously, if he's going to be Luke 5 years after Return of the Jedi, he's not going to sound like an old man yet.
No.
He's only, 25, 26 at that point? Probably older, I would guess. Maybe 30.
Maybe 30.
Yeah. So he's not that old where he sounds like he smoked a bunch of marbles or something. But yeah, I'm very conflicted about this, because on the one hand, it was pretty cool to see. This is what people said they wished happened in The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Where he was saying, what do you want me to do? Come out with my lightsaber and just, face down the order by myself? And it was like, yes! Yes, goddammit! And we sort of got that, but not really. And it immediately looked cool, and they kind of replicated, Darth Vader's whole thing from Rogue One, where he's just tearing down all the fucking rebels and shit. He even did the same fight style, too, where he just did the one-handed lightsaber fight while using his robot hand to, force push everyone.
Yeah.
Can I say the irony of him, destroying a droid with his mechanical hand? Using the Force, of course, but still.
Yeah.
It's appropriate. And then, of course, he shows up, and, he obviously knows Grogu's there. Grogu knows he's there, and there's pretty much, agreed that, he's gonna train him, but he just needs Mando permission to leave first, because it's obvious that, he still kind of wants to be with Mando, and it's obvious Mando's, wrecked about it. Oh my god,
And then as he tells him to leave, he takes the helmet off so that Grogu can see his face.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Let me see
and everybody
with
else
my
on the
own
bridge.
eyes.
I know, and I saw that, how people they were making parallels with that with Return of the Jedi when Luke takes off Vader's mask.
See, that's what I was waiting for. They could have cut the whole previous him taking off his mask thing and saved it for this, and it would have been way more poignant.
I know. That's why I got people why is he taking why do they have to do...
Because in this case, he chose to. This was the last time he thinks he's ever going to see Grogu again. He wants to see him with his own eyes. He wants Grogu to see him with his own eyes. And he didn't care if anybody else was around or whatever. He didn't care about his Kree. He just wanted to see, basically his surrogate son for one final time. That was what I was waiting for. Fuck that last goddamn episode for making him remove his helmet that way. Sorry, I'm still pissed about that. And he was crying in Mandalorian. It's oh god, my heart, I can't take it.
And then when he puts him down, he Grogu grabs his leg. It's oh.
I don't want to leave, Daddy.
Like he doesn't want to go to preschool.
And then for some reason, R2-D2 comes in.
Yeah, R2-D2.
What's up, bitches? I'm here.
It's okay, so why did you come here if only to, be reminded of your trauma from Dagobah?
Because the two reasons we had to have that scene of him being like, you remind me of that guy who hit me with a stick. And then him being like, you remind me of that guy who was with that other guy who slew all of my fellow Jedi at the temple. It's like, awkward. And you watch it, like, we open up the next scene, we see Grogu, and he's just whacking R2 with a stick. He will feel the wrath of his stick.
Don't hit me, please. Don't hit me. Hey, come on, man. Quit that begging.
And then, Luke takes him. They walk into the elevator. Elevator shuts.
And credits.
And credits.
But wait!
There's more!
On this episode of Game of Thrones...
We go back to Tatooine, Jabba's palace. Inside Jabba's palace in the main room.
Bib Fortuna. Who's let himself go. Who's like, yes, I'm in charge now. I'm the Hutt.
both literally and figuratively.
He's just missing Salacious Crumb at his side.
Wait a minute, you're never died.
No one's ever really gone. But then one of the Gamorrean guards gets shot from the sharpshooter, and then Boba comes in. And Bib Fortuna's like, oh, Boba, so glad you're alive. It's like, hey, buddy, how's it going? And then
For leaving me in the pit, you asshole!
And Boba's like, just shoots him, tosses the body off to the side, and he sits in the chair like it's the frickin' Iron Throne.
This is mine now, bitch! I'm in charge of Tatooine!
And then it cuts, and it says, the Book of Boba Fett, coming December 2011. 2021.
Yes! Yes.
What, did we go back in time?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yeah, coming December 2021, which will be around the same time as when the third season of Mandalorian. So technically, both of these shows are going at the same time. So I'm like, really? We're actually going to do 2 Star Wars shows simultaneously at the same time? Is there going to be a crossover? I don't know.
I wouldn't mind. I mean, technically this is a crossover, or, a spin-off.
Once they get, Rangers of the New Republic going, there's going to be this massive 3-episode crossover where you have to watch one series and then you have to watch the other series for part 2 and then watch the other. What the DC did with Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they did it over 4 different shows. They could do it. They already do crossovers in the comics.
I see a certain comic book reviewer getting completely red-faced about that.
I gotta say, though, I think it's funny that in order for Boba to take over Tatooine, he just needed his armor and someone as backup. That was it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because, he's been on Tatooine how long at this point? He could have taken over at any point, but he's like, no, man, I need the armor first.
Although, to be fair, there were other bounty hunters at the time. There were other people there. There was a lot more heavily armed guards. Most of the people at that point died on the sailing barge a couple of years ago at the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
And he probably had some loyalty to Jabba, not so much to Bib Fortuna.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was, 5 years, and it was only after he got his armor back that he finally decided to, make his move. And again, he did it by himself with one other person. It's that's really all it took.
Well, to be fair, the Jawas took the armor.
But did he really need it? Really? I mean, we saw him fight by himself before he put on the armor.
It's his armor. He can do what he wants.
I'm Boba Fett. I do what I want.
I'm just saying, he could have come back without the armor and still whooped everybody's ass and taken over himself.
Yeah, if he had that gaffy stick, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
But, I mean, I don't think it really matters in the long run.
Yeah, he's king now.
Yeah.
It's good to be the king.
He's the new Hutt. With a dad bod.
Hey, he rocks it, though.
Yeah.
But that does make me wonder, so how did he get Slave 1 back without, going back to the palace? Because I imagine it was docked there, during the events of Return of the Jedi.
That's what I was saying.
I don't think it was docked near Jabba's palace. It was probably docked at one of the other, maybe Mos Eisley or somewhere.
I was thinking, I was kind of asking the same thing when he first appeared. I'm thinking, okay, so how is it that Slave 1 either A, didn't get towed and, torn down for scraps that, other people on Tatooine would sell for parts, or B, get ransacked by Jawas and, be in, tons of, mini pieces?
Like I said, it was probably in a hangar somewhere.
Well, whoever did that was like very, very considerate, especially for like someone who lives on Tatooine. I'm just saying, I'm surprised that thing wasn't just like a fucking like skeletal scrap heap. That it was intact this whole time. He had that fucking Sonic thing there. You think that would have been one of the first things that got stolen? Just saying, it's rather convenient. But yeah, going back to the whole thing with Luke, there's two things that I was thinking about after the fact. One is that when you really think about it, Mando's whole mission to go after Grogu was kind of pointless. Because if he had done nothing, Luke still would have went in, destroyed everything in sight, probably killed Gideon, got the kid, and got out.
Well, how do you know? Because, Gideon probably had him, his powers restrained, so he probably couldn't communicate with Luke at that point until he was freed. So
I assume he already knew through their whole thing.
I'm saying that they probably, obviously they communicated back at the temple, but I'm assuming, Gideon probably managed to keep his, him restrained and,
I didn't think the restraints would actually, like, stop his force powers, though.
I imagine, he's restrained so that he can't use his force powers and therefore nobody could sense him.
It doesn't really matter, though. Luke was able to communicate with Darth Vader from, like, across ships.
Well, you can communicate. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a lock on where exactly he is.
I guess not.
That is true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I imagine that Gideon was being up on his shit as he was. He definitely knew how to repress, Grogu's powers and keep him from communicating with any possible Jedi, and keeping him from, using any of his force powers to, let any Jedi sense him. I'm absolutely.
So you're saying Mando was basically the distraction Luke needed to come in and do his thing.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Grogu would have needed to be freed in order to give his position, his location to Luke. If he's still restrained, there's no way that's happening. Luke is just blind.
Grogu didn't sense him until his ship was, like, right within range, though.
I'm saying Grogu would have had to make himself known. He probably had, like I said, he communicated with Luke at the temple, but then, he couldn't give away his position because he was being restrained.
I guess. I don't know. I just keep trying to, like, playing out the scenario in my head, and I keep thinking, like, well, eventually Luke would have found them, and, probably would have, wrecked stuff regardless of whether the crew was there or not. I mean, they didn't really help him or anything. If anything, they just kind of, like,
I don't think Luke would have just stumbled upon him. He would have had to have sensed him.
Keep in mind that there's also, it's not just Dark Troop, like Mando and crew basically did most of the work already. Because there were also stormtroopers on there.
Stormtroopers, come on.
No, I'm like, ultimately, Gideon knew his shit. He knew that he would have to keep Grogu restrained.
Yeah, but he didn't count on Luke. You saw his face.
No, he didn't count on Luke. He certainly didn't count on Luke, but he was also counting on the fact that he had, Grogu hidden so well that he wouldn't have to deal with Luke or any Jedi that happened to come by. Gideon knows what he's doing.
No, I know he knows what he's doing.
He couldn't foresee that Mando would actually be able to get through, find him, and, be able to defeat him.
I'm just looking at it from, like, both sides. Like, if Luke never showed up, would they have been able to make it out? And if they never showed up, would Luke have been able to get through that and get the kid out no problem?
I don't think they would have made it out so easily,
right.
Or at least not everybody would have made it out. I think somebody would have died.
They probably all would have died. There was how many of those fucking things?
Somebody probably could have gotten away while the Dark Troopers were attacking the others. I think there was at least a chance that at least one of them got away, if that happened.
I guess. But moving on, there's another thing. And yeah, everybody's been arguing about this. Because Luke now has Grogu that he plans to train. And we all know for a fact that by the time The Force Awakens, all of Luke's students are dead. So everyone's wondering now, so does Grogu get killed along with everybody else, or does he escape again, or does something happen before then?
Well, keep in mind that The Force Awakens doesn't happen for another, 30 years yet.
Right.
So
but he's also, 50 years old, and his species apparently can live for hundreds of years. He still has, training to do, and Lord knows how long it's going to take to bring out that training in him. Because, he's had, apparently a bunch of masters, and none of them were able to,
I also had a thought. Because Gideon even did mention this when the Dark Troopers are about to attack the bridge. Gideon says, the only people that will survive this are myself and Grogu.
Mm.
So, also that lends credence to my theory that, somebody's going to escape this. Because Grogu could use his powers to, shield them, whatever.
When he wants to.
Yeah. Keep in mind, he was shown to be very powerful up to a point where he has to, he runs out of energy.
I know that, but also keep in mind, in this episode, Gideon was about to shoot him, and he didn't do anything to protect himself. If it wasn't for Mando diving in front of him, he probably would have been shot. Keep in mind, they're not that level, they're not a Kylo Ren level. They could stop, a laser in midair quite yet.
Yeah.
I see people, argue about this, and a few things come to mind. Again, one, you have the long gap. So anything could happen in between where, Grogu could have easily, left in that time. Two, we still have a third season of Mandalorian, and you can't tell me that they're going to leave Grogu out. I know that the focus is going to be about him and Bo-Katan going back to Mandalore and then battling to who's going to be the rightful ruler and whatnot, and him getting roped into bringing Mandalore back, whatever. But that he's going to run back into him.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I've actually thought about this, is that if you're going to bring Grogu back, is he still going to be the same age? Because I feel like if you're going to bring him back, he's got to be able to do more stuff. We can't just have him just...
He's got to at least be able to talk at this point.
I know. That's the thing. Grogu needs to be able to talk at that point. I don't care if he speaks like Yoda or whatever, but I think it would be more interesting and to show that...
That would be quite a shock to everybody, especially Mando.
Honestly, I was kind of expecting at some point... by the end, he would say, his first word or something like that just to, surprise everybody.
There would have to be some sort of time jump, I think.
Yeah.
I think there would have to be, a time skip in between seasons.
Yeah, but if that happens, then how do we deal with the whole, is Mando or Bo-Katan going to be the leader of Mandalore? Because, you can't do a time skip and have them put off that whole thing in the meantime.
Well, here's what I remember.
Unless they deal with it off screen, but people are going to be pissed about that.
What I remember Luke saying, I can't protect him unless he knows some stuff. So he's probably at least going to give him just enough to, be able to defend himself. And then, he could always come back after the threat to him has been nullified.
I guess so. I feel in some way or form they're going to get him back in there. Because, he's the freaking mascot of the series, aside from Mando.
But I feel like they're going to hold off on bringing him back, ultimately. He probably will show up at the very end of Season 3 at the earliest.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too.
I suppose, but fans are going to be pissed.
Oh, yeah. But on the other hand, the show's called The Mandalorian.
I know, it's ultimately about him, and it should be, but at the same time, where is his arc going to go aside from him trying to give power back? Because, before this, he was just a bounty hunter, just wandering aimlessly doing job to job. He doesn't really have any goals of his own or whatever. He's just an unfortunate side character that keeps getting roped into these main plots that he wants no part of.
And that's another thing, though, and that kind of thing could happen to Grogu in any of the spin-offs that we have coming out.
That is true.
So we could also see him in one of the many spin-offs coming out. One that maybe hasn't even been announced yet.
I suppose so. Mm-hmm. We'll find some way to squeeze him in.
Yeah.
They made all the fucking toys and stuff, so they can't, they're not just going to get rid of him just because, that particular plot point is done.
I mean, we've name-dropped Grand Admiral Thrawn, and we were saying we thought he'd show up at this point, but he didn't, so he's probably going to show up.
And that was
at least Ahsoka.
Yeah, that was prior to the announcement of the Ahsoka spin-off series, which means that Grand Admiral Thrawn is probably going to show up in that series instead.
Yeah, I know there's so many ways to go about this. It just, I'm just trying to, think, because the whole them bomb dropping, all these side things. It's like, now you can't even get your theory straight, because it's like, oh, just because it doesn't happen in this one, doesn't mean it won't happen in this one. And it's like, great, now you gotta watch everything just to keep up on context. It's just, oh god. It's like you said, it's going to be the whole
event comics
thing where it's like you have to watch the side shit now. You can't just go into this willy-nilly.
And that's what I'm worried about, is like that might alienate fans, like people who just want to watch the damn show. It's like that was never really the whole point of the expanded universe. It's like the expanded universe was basically its own thing. Like if you want to watch it, that's fine. But like if you want to watch the movies, that's fine. You can just focus on the movies themselves and not have anything to do with the expanded universe. But as soon as you start tying, like even at the end of Rise of Skywalker, where they throw one of the Jedi from Rebels in there, it's like if you're just following the movies, you don't know who that person is. You don't care. Like sure, throwing in Samuel L. Jackson, yeah, because he was in the prequels, and Yoda and all those other people, and even Qui-Gon. But when you throw in like Freddie Prinze Jr. in there, at that point, like to people just watching just the movies, you don't know who that is. Like you have no.
They don't, but like in that instance, it doesn't really matter because you know that it's just a bunch of voices of Jedi, and it's just voices. So you don't have to know who it is. I mean, definitely if you're familiar with the material, yeah, you're going to recognize that voice. But otherwise, it's not alienating anybody because it's just voices and you already can assume that it's just Jedi. But like in this, it's like, yeah, you're going to have to watch everything.
Oh god. I mean, don't get me wrong, we intend to actually look at this stuff because, you know, again, we're big Star Wars nerds in case you haven't been listening to the last, 45 minutes of us ranting or something. And we intend to do it, it's just, again, it's overwhelming. Like, this is why, again, as the casual fan here, I avoided a lot of the side stuff, aside from the movies, for the longest time, because it is so overwhelming. And granted, I am interested in learning this stuff now, especially in context to this show. But at the same time, I feel like, because they gotta really coordinate this shit to pull it off. Like, this has gotta be like MCU level of coordination, probably even more so. Because I was arguing this the other day, Star Wars continuity turns on a dime, like, all the time. Like, day by day at this point. So, you know, anything could become canon, anything could not become canon, and it just, you have to like really pay attention, and it
wasn't always like this.
I know, it wasn't always like that.
Because Disney had to reboot the entire continuity, that's why.
Even before that, with the prequels, George Lucas upheavaled like 30 years worth of content that fans had created in between. And then again, when Disney did that, it got upheavaled again. And now it's doing it again with the Disney Plus series. It's like, where does it fucking end? And don't get me wrong, I'm glad for new content and lore and stuff, but it's like, after a certain point, you know, can you really follow it anymore?
I mean, then again, I know at least I think Ahsoka is going to be like a limited series.
Ahsoka's going to be a limited series.
Yeah, it's only going to run, a single season. At least there is the, you can take away that you only have to watch that one season of, that one show. So that's less commitment.
I kind of hope a lot of them are like that, to be quite honest. We don't need to complicate things anymore.
Many of the Star Wars spin-offs are limited series. The only ones that I think that are actually ongoing are Rangers of the New Republic and maybe the Book of Boba Fett. Those are the only two that are ongoing. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series I don't know if that's going to be a limited series or if it's going to have multiple seasons. It could go either way. They haven't really said on that. But like most of the other stuff, I think is a limited series.
I mean, I think that's why Solo failed. It was like, it could have been its own thing, and instead it opted to try and start a whole, MCU sort of thing by, throwing in Darth Maul in there at the end. You kind of want to have some of the more standalone stuff and let it breathe, let it be separate.
It's funny we're talking about it because Lando also is getting a spin-off series, is getting a series as well. Although we don't know if it's going to be Donald Glover Lando or if it's going to be Billy D. Williams. I think it's probably going to be the Donald Glover one.
I would say more likely it's going to be, based on how Rise of Skywalker ended, it's probably going to be the Billy D. Williams.
That's the thing, it's either or. Like they didn't specify.
But
I'm for either.
I'm for either as well. I'm just saying, in likelihood, based on what we had with Rise of Skywalker and, you know, what they were kind of hinting at, it would make most sense to have it be the Billy D and, you know, have the one former stormtrooper with him doing that whole thing. Plus which, Billy D freaking comes back to reprise Lando all the freaking time.
Yeah.
Like, he did it on Rebels. He reprised him in the Lego movie.
Yes.
It's like a throwaway thing.
And even in like Lego Batman, like he played Harvey Dent in the original Batman movies, and he came back in Lego Batman to play Harvey Dent again as Two-Face, which he was originally going to be had Tim Burton not stopped after the second movie. So yeah, he's a dedicated man when it comes to his characters.
That and he probably needs to work. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's always refreshing to see him. He's always great.
He's as charming as ever.
Yeah. I will never turn down Billy D coming back.
Nope. And I will say one thing in regards to going back to the whole thing with Luke and his students and stuff, because I keep seeing people like, I feel so bad for Adam Driver, like thank God he has no like, you know, social media presence, because people are like, oh man, his DMs must be getting bombarded with people like in regards to, you know, oh, did he kill Grogu and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm a casual fan here, but did none of you read the Kylo Ren comic? And I know I'm probably in the minority here on that, but yeah, and I normally don't read the comics, but in this case I made an exception. I actually read it. Kylo Ren didn't actually kill all of Luke's students. Like, he killed, what was it, 2 or 3 of them, and that was in self-defense. The rest of them were killed by a lightning bolt which struck the Jedi Temple, which they said was from Palpatine. So yeah, like even though it is like still confirmed that his students died, Kylo Ren didn't technically do it. At least not those students, at least not among the ones that Grogu would be had he been there. So I just wanted to point that out, because that kept annoying me every time when somebody would harp on that, and I'm like, don't you know I mean, come on. And like, these comics I think were released by Marvel too, so technically they are canon. At least I like to think that they're canon.
If it's one of the more recent stuff, then yeah, that is canon.
Exactly. So yeah, stop harping on that. Stop harping on Kylo Ren. We already know that he's a bastard in like the trilogy. We don't need to add him being a Grogu killer on top of that. Come on. Anything else you guys want to add?
And Robot Chicken. I forgot that Billy D came back to reprise.
I was going to mention that.
And he even
is so non sequitur, but
and he even defends himself, like all his haters and stuff is like, oh, he betrayed his friends and stuff, and like we're supposed to believe he's a good guy, and like he just like goes into this full thing, and I'm like, did he co-write this piece? But yeah, they said it was a pretty decent finale to this. They said a lot of questions, a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of uncertainty as to what's going to happen from here. Because I mean, the main plot is pretty much over. So it's like, where do you go from here? Like, obviously they're going to, I guess, try to help
and restore Mandalore.
Yeah, restore Mandalore, I guess, is what they do from here on in. I mean, if my hope for the third season is that Mando finally finds like a purpose. You know, because, like, I get not everybody needs a purpose. Like, he probably was perfectly content just doing his bounty hunter stuff. But I feel like there should be more for him. And I mean, like...
He was basically just living out of a spaceship. I mean...
Yeah, he was equivalent of a dude living in his van down by the river. That's pretty much it. But I hope this gives him, like, more incentive to actually do stuff. Because, like, he's gone through so much shit. He's been put through so much emotion. He broke his fucking Kree for this creature. And it's like, he obviously can't go back to his group now. Because how the fuck is he going to face them after that? Like, literally, how can he face them after that?
Honestly, they probably wanted something like this for him anyway, given what, you know, they were saying when, you know, he got his last piece of Beskar, when he got the jetpack.
Yeah. Like, he had the full armor ensemble. He got all the loot he could possibly get. So
no,
all the upgrades.
I think they knew they knew that their day was coming to an end. They wanted him, you know, something more for him.
I mean, they probably were hoping he'd just keep the kid. Because, like, he did seem a lot happier with him, despite the annoyances. But, yeah, I mean, I do hope they do something with him. Because I don't see him, at this point, I don't see him willingly becoming the ruler of Mandalore.
No.
but maybe something else regarding Mandalore.
But on the other hand, there is always that whole saying of how, the best person for the job is often the person who doesn't want it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Lord knows he does not want
it, so gotta teach him how to say goodbye.
So I guess we've pretty much said all we can possibly say about this. So yeah, the next time we do this will be a year from now, next Christmas. I mean, I'm bummed, but at the same time, given this pandemic,
kind of need a breather.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a good time to let Disney drop their other shit along the way. And hopefully this stuff is intact from the pandemic, and they are able to give it the focus that it deserves. But with that being said, until next year, everyone, watch us on our other live stuff, as well as new material we plan to do in the future, as well as the future Star Wars stuff that will be dropped. But until we come back to this particular series, I'm Kat MacBerrie.
I'm Eric Stoller.
I'm Doug MacBerrie.
And we have spoken.